How did life begin? Jack's time travel adventure. Dear Jack, this book is specially dedicated to you. Just like the hero in this book, always remember you can find inspiration from all around you. With love, your best friend. One day, at the museum, Jack was saying, I want to understand the journey of life and how it all began. There was a flash. A time machine appeared and out sprang a scientist. The sprightly man said, Darwin is my name. You seem like an inquisitive boy. What would you like to know? Let's turn the wheel to understand the story of life on our planet Earth. Darwin asked, are you ready? We will go back millions of years. How long is a million years? That's a 1,000 by 1,000 years. With a flipped switch or two, the outside world spun into a blur and off they went into the past. Boom. Darwin and Jack arrived at the age of the oldest rocks on Earth. Darwin said nearly 4 billion years ago, Earth was a harsh place filled with ash, fire and smoke. It was different from today. The air was mostly toxic fumes without much oxygen. Red lava flowed like mighty rivers made of molten rock. Earth was hotter than boiling water and earthquakes happened a lot. Darwin smiled. Let's jump forward in time and see what happened next. Earth was a barren planet until water began taking forms. When the conditions were right, something magical happened. It was a little molecules combined into simple proteins. From these basic chains, DNA took shape. Miracle. Twisted like a pair of ribbons by luck or design, these proteins formed the building blocks of life. From 2 billion to 500 million years ago, single-celled life evolved from DNA. Most could not be seen with the naked eye. Some were free-swimming and ate others for food. Darwin pointed to some algae. These microbes altered our Earth. By changing carbon dioxide to oxygen they made it possible for us to breathe. About 500 million years ago, animals without backbones ruled the Cambrian Period. Coral branches, anemones and sponges grew like gardens under the seas. Worms, slugs, snails and bugs crawled along the ocean floor. Somewhere near 400 million years ago, fish grew bones, flippers and fins which allowed them to swim better. Many fish had armored plates. Some had strong jaws. Darwin whispered, did you know that coelacanths can still be found today? We call it a living fossil. Around 380 million years ago, the world was warm and humid. Darwin beckoned to Jack. Plants began to colonize land. Starting with moss and creepers from the edges of water, tiny leaves began sprouting. Soft ferns were abundant and trees became common. Most plants turned to coal when they died. This is the coal we use for power and heating. Fern. Some 350 million years ago, the age of insects began. Ants marched in long lines. Wasps, moths and dragonflies buzzed around. Beetles burrowed underground. Some insects were as big as Jack's arm. Darwin said sometimes, bugs got stuck in resin from trees and turned into hard yellow amber. Cockroach. About 280 million years ago, some fish were chasing insects closer and closer to the surface. They gradually developed lungs to breathe out of water. They were called amphibians, which means creatures of two worlds. They bred by laying eggs in water but grew as adults on land. Frogs hopped along in swamps. Salamanders and newts crawled on fours. Darwin turned up the dial. Now is when things get exciting. 250 million years ago, early reptiles emerged to heat up their cold-blooded bodies. Jack said, don't they look like lizards? Darwin said, they are. Reptiles laid eggs with shells on land and breathed purely with their lungs. They gradually took many forms and started forming herds, said Darwin excitedly. From 180 million years onwards, dinosaurs ruled the earth. Many were gentle giants which ate leaves and shrubs. Some had horns on their heads. Some had plates on their backs. Others had long necks. During the Jurassic period, Allosaurus had teeth as sharp as daggers. Spinosaurus had a sail on its back. Velociraptors hunted in intelligent packs. Jack asked, what are those two dinosaurs doing? Darwin replied, oh, nothing, just two young Pachycephalosaurus fighting. They have thick skulls to butt their heads and are fighting for mates and territory. Cretaceous period was the last stage of dinosaurs, roughly 65 million years ago. Diplodocus was longer than two school buses. Parasaurolophus had a crest for attracting mates. Others were the size of chickens and ate small lizards and eggs. Ankylosaurus had thick armor. Tyrannosaurus rex ruled like a king. You could just hear it roar. Let's go see some flying dinosaurs. Scaphognathus and Dimorphodons ate fish by the sea. Archaeopteryx was the first bird with light hollow bones and feathers for flight. Pterodactyls, pteranodons and quetzalcoatlus flew with large leathery wings. I want to fly too, Jack said. Dinosaurs were also in the seas and oceans. Some had long necks to catch fish. Some had monstrous jaws to swallow crushed shells and eat turtles whole. Ichthyosaurus swam like dolphins. Kronosaurus looked like crocodiles. The seas were a frightening place to be for a little boy like Jack. Suddenly, 99% of life disappeared around 65 million years ago. Several factors caused the Earth's climate to change. Animals and plants that could not adapt simply died out. When an animal died near water, its tissues would rot away. Soft soil would cover the body and form layers which hardened over millions of years. Jack asked, how do we know dinosaurs lived in the past? Darwin answered, through fossils. Under pressure and heat, the ground turned solid and the bones became rock. With gradual erosion, the bones are revealed to us to be studied. We are discovering more fossils. Each additional piece tells us more about the past. As we join the pieces, our knowledge gets better with time thanks to archaeology, paleontology, geology and biology, said Darwin. Jack had a eureka moment. I think I get it now. All life came from the same source. Something like a tree of life. Yes, we are from the same root. Life is all linked to the past by the theory of evolution, said Darwin. Well, that concludes our trip in time. Shall we head back to the museum? Thanks, Darwin. It was so awesome, mentioned Jack. Jack, I will show you the prehistoric mammals in the next adventure, Darwin said. For now, it's time to say goodbye, little boy. See you next time. Jack, check out the other books which could have your name. More books available at www.amazingfables.com. All right,